Hello, Steve Fletcher here, and welcome to this little video log. First of all, let me apologise up front for the fact that the sound quality is not great. That's due to the fact that this microphone has chosen this very moment of me wanting to record this blog to have a bit of a hissy fit and decided it's not going to work, basically. So I'm going to get that out of the way. Which means, of course, which is a great thing for you, because it means you can't able to reveal the beauty of these two guitars here. And the reason why I'm making this blog in the first place is basically because I have just gone into my local music shop and I've purchased myself a set of these. Well, what's the surprise there, Steve? You're a guitarist and you've bought guitar strings. Big wow. I'm watching this video because... Well, I'll tell you for why. These two guitars, as you can see, this is Frank. He is completely unstrung at the moment, and he is going to be the object of these particular strings. And over here, we've got Charlie. Now, Charlie is a very important guitar to me because Charlie is essentially the guitar that I learned to play on when I was a kid. And he's been through a lot with me, as you can see. He's very, very worn. His body looks kind of like the surface of Io at the moment. And I am in a bit of a middle. I'm wanting to try and get him up to back to full playing health, so I'm going to be doing a few bits and pieces with him. But basically, what I'm doing, so here we have a set of hybrid slinkies. These, for those of you who don't know, are a set of guitar strings where they have a gauge 9 on the top, but they have a gauge 10 on the bottom. So basically the E and the B and the G strings are from a 9 set, and the D and the A and the bottom E are from a 10. So it's a kind of a bit of a crossover between a gauge 10. Yes, this is a cup mat, a coaster, and a gauge 9, which will be here. Yes, I'm that much of a geek. Why am I doing this? Well, because I have just taken the decision to go up, down, I don't know, to go lighter with my guitar strings. I've been playing gauge 10s for quite a few years now, and over the last couple of months I've just sort of been listening to a few guitarists who are using a few lighter gauge strings, and I've decided to experiment a little bit to just be a little bit more different with my guitar strings, and I've decided to go down a gauge, up a gauge, lighter gauge. And this just got me thinking about the journey of guitar players to get, your sound and, a lot of stuff. When we're learning, and this is just what the whole real purpose of this video log is when we're learning, when we're kids, I find a lot with my pupils is that you can get very, very obsessed in a way with sounding like a guitar player. You get so many guitarists like, I want to sound like X, and I'm no different. I've wanted for years to be David Gilmour. I've not managed it yet, and I probably never ever will. But you do hear a lot of guitarists who are like, well, I want to be like X. But of course, the thing about that is the greatest guitarists, and I can't let it go unsaid, people like the late, great Jeff Beck, are the guitarists who did everything unique. They didn't sound like anybody else. And that's what we should all aspire to, I think. It's very easy to get bogged down into trying to sound like other guitarists and not try and find your own voice. To that end, you should never be too scared to experiment with your own sound, your own rig, from the largest things, amps and floorboards, to the very, very smallest things, to just sort of find that path that is ultimately yours. And this is what's happening to me most recently. This guitar here, Charlie, this is a 57 vintage reissue Fender Strat. I bought Charlie in around 1995. He was made in April 1994. I did have a couple of guitars before him, but basically this is the guitar that I learned to play on, really. The journey that this guitar has been on has been numerous, and talking of strings, the thing that makes this quite funny is Charlie has at one point gone up to a gauge 14 string, and now I'm going down to 9s. Why did we go up to gauge 14s? Well, it just went quite gradually. And you might be thinking, well, gauge 14 strings don't actually exist, Steve. Well, no, they don't. I had to actually create a set of strings. I can't quite remember how I did it, actually, but it did involve getting a set of normal sort of Ernie Ball strings. The B, whatever gauge Ernie Ball strings has got a 14 as the B string or thereabouts, went on the top E. And then everything up to there, then that was the bottom E was on the, what was the A. And what I actually had to do for the bottom E string was use a bass G, I can't remember what gauge it would have been, on the bottom E to try and get that matching thickness. As a result, when I put that gauge, that string on, the nut, you can see that part of the nut is missing there. The nut went ping. I'm not having that, Steve. And had a bit of a mental breakdown and snapped. So this is one of the many things that I'm doing with this. Frank here has been in dry dock for about a year. And again, I just find that I'm coming to use this because I'm doing a couple of videos where I need humbucking pickups, with separate master volume controls and a trem. More on that later. I do have Rudiger, who's just over there, my Les Paul, who of course does have 2 humbuckers and matching master volume controls, but he doesn't have a trem. So this is all the journey that I'm on. But I just wanted to just mark this little moment and just try and sow that seed to you guitarists out there, you learner guitarists in particular, to just try not to get so bogged down. It's fun, don't get me wrong, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. It's fun to try and sound like, a guitarist. But I don't think it's necessarily helpful, and I'm sure people will comment differently underneath down there, and feel free. I value your comments, I really, really do. Unless you're going to, be in X-Guitarist tribute band, I really don't think in the long run it does you any good to get very bogged down in I want to try and sound like blah. I hear it, the thing that really turns me off, I don't want to single out this particular guitarist or guitar players for this particular person as any worse than anybody else, but I do see them a lot, and it really does make me click off, is you get a lot of guitarists who are, this kid is the next Stevie Ray Vaughan, and they're there with the sunburst Strat with the, the hat and the rings and the tube screamer and the whatever. And they do sound exactly the same as Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it's like, well, does the world really need, 3,000,000,001 guitarists who sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan? I don't know. I mean, it's a great unanswerable debate, is that one. That I think, Stevie Ray Vaughan was Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I don't think you should try and emulate. I think you should try and use that influence and your other influences to create your own unique approach, your own unique style, and try to get to that point where you sound like you. When Eddie Van Halen sadly passed away a few years ago, people will never get an innovator like Eddie Van Halen, and my first thought was, sorry, no disrespect to Eddie Van Halen, of course he did brilliant things with the guitar, but have you heard Matt Bellamy? Have you heard Morello? People like that who do absolutely crazy, unique things with their guitar, and it's them. That is them. Matt Bellamy turned an analog instrument into a digital instrument. Morello does these amazing, weird, and utterly brilliant noises with his guitar. He can make his guitar scratch a record, for crying out loud. Of course, the late, great sadly missed Jeff Beck, who was a guitarist like no other. There was no other guitarist alive who played like Jeff Beck. I did a little video tribute to Jeff Beck in which I described him as the Bohemian Rhapsody of guitarists, in that, you couldn't go to a band songwriting sessions and go, right guys, I've written a ballad, and then we're going to stop and we're going to put an opera section in the middle, because everyone will go, that's Bohemian Rhapsody. If you were a guitarist who was doing all these weird things with the trem and hitting natural harmonics and bending them up to tones and stuff like that, people would immediately go, dude, you're trying to be Jeff Beck, stop it. So just, I'm ranting and raving a little bit. Well, no, I'm not. Maybe I'm waffling a little bit, I don't know. But just try to find your own path. And for the love of God, I've gone in my life from gauge 14 strings on this to I'm now about to go to gauge 9 strings. I've gone from being a man who used guitar, who my whole rig was guitar, lead, amp. That was it. And now my whole rig consists of guitar, Line 6 Helix. I've gone completely the other way. So don't be afraid of the evolution of your guitar style. Don't be afraid to experiment with your guitar style. Try to use all your influences, not to sound like X guitar player, but try to use all your influences to try to sound like you, guitar player. I want you to be the next you. I don't want you to be the next insert guitarist name here. So there you go, boys and girls. So thanks for joining me on this little video log. I hope you had fun. I hope you took something away from it. I'll keep you posted on the progress of Charlie, the restoration of him as a guitar, if you are interested. And the initial thing I'm going to be doing is new trem arm, new scratch plate, new pickups, possibly a refret to try and get him back to his playing best. I'm going to be doing restringing on Frank over here, and I think the first video I'm going to upload with Frank is the Mighty Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. And when I've done that, I shall post a link to it right there in the corner, which may or may not be appearing right now. So thanks very much for watching. Please like this video, please subscribe, please leave me your comments, and we'll see you next time, boys and girls. Bye bye.